Boxing Truth here. Wanted to talk a little bit about Danny Garcia. This is not really going to be one of the many hate videos out there criticizing DSG for his latest cherry pick. It's really around the level of Raul Salka for choosing Samuel Vargas, an unranked welterweight within the WBC that is a non-title fight, which makes it the criticism that Garcia is getting warranted. But just want to talk a little bit about Danny Garcia and how I've been in the minority of in the past defending him, considering that among the Al Haymon fighters, he has the best resume, he has the most experience, he's been in the biggest, most significant fights among the Al Haymon stable. He's been tested, he's gotten good learning fights, courtesy of Golden Boys matchmaking when Haymon was involved with them. And it's been all downhill ever since Golden Boy left, and Haymon's been dealing with Danny Garcia's matchmaking all on his own. And as a result, the momentum is gone. All the stuff that he's did early in his career, the upset wins over Khan and Matisse, they're all distant memories. This is a what have you done for me lately sport. And Danny Garcia's welterweight run is very laughable. Mostly cherry-picked opponents that have name recognition. I don't give a shit that he fought Paulo Malignaggi. He was coming off a year and change layoff and a knockout loss. Robert Guerrero's done jack shit in the welterweight division. Just a recycled opponent for up-and-coming and name Al Haymon clients. He's been chop worn for the longest. He's been struggling against the likes of Kamagai and Aaron Martinez. I wasn't really surprised that he lost to the cab driver. I'm just very fucking upset that I didn't place money on the fight, but I was just so uninterested in Robert Guerrero's fight against Peralta that I just didn't pay no mind to it. And very upsetting that I didn't put at least $100 on that fight. Could have gotten a solid payday putting money on that fight. But what pissed me off about Danny Garcia the most, it made me lose faith in him because he's an Al Haymon client. And it's just hard to be a fan of Al Haymon fighters because they're always going to disappoint you. But when he ducked Manny Pacquiao, that was the last straw. I didn't care him fighting Samuel Vargas, him fighting Robert Guerrero, him cherry-picking Malignaggi. That didn't bother me. What bothered me was him not taking the fight against Manny Pacquiao, not stepping up and willing to fight a legend in him. Considering in the past, he said he would love to fight Manny Pacquiao. It would be an honor to fight Manny Pacquiao. And when the opportunity came, he turned it down. Came out of his own mouth that he was offered to fight and didn't take it. That was the last straw for me. That's what pissed me off. That's what made me turn against Danny Garcia, because I like Danny Garcia. I've been a fan of Danny Garcia for quite some time. I think he's a very underrated fighter. I think he's a pretty damn good fighter. And honestly, I wouldn't count him out against anybody in the welterweight division. Of course, there'll be favorites, but he's pretty much live against anybody. I don't think anybody blows him out. Even if he took the fight against Manny, I would have picked Manny to beat him, but it still would have been a dangerous fight because Danny Garcia is a very good counterpuncher. He's one of the best counterpunchers in the game. I mean, I went to his fight against Zab Judah. That's when he really started to get a following. He pretty much took all of Zab Judah's fans. A lot of people there at the Barclays Center that day, 3 years ago, were there to see Zab. They didn't even know who Danny Garcia was. And then he made a name for himself by pretty much beating the crap out of Zab Judah. Had a solid performance, slowed down in the later rounds, which is one of his weaknesses. He can gas in fights and slow down. But he showed, his talent, his skill, and how good of a counterpuncher he is, how dangerous it is to attack Danny Garcia at full force, because he can really come back at you with dangerous counter shots. Just ask Amir Khan, just ask Lucas Matisse and Zab Judah. All come away with L's clear-cut L's against Danny Swift, who's been counted out in a number of his fights. But now, all that momentum's gone. And him ducking Manny Pacquiao was the last straw. That's what made me turn against him. In this next fight, it's what makes it bad is that he's an unranked guy. He's Errol Spence leftovers. And he's not even going to defend his title. I mean, what is that? I mean, Al Heyman has trouble marinating fights. He doesn't even marinate fights properly. Keith Thurman's going to fight one time this year. Garcia doesn't fight for 10 months, and then he fights in a non-title bout against Errol Spence leftovers. You know, Heyman, if he knew what the fuck he was doing with some of his clients, knew how to build up fighters or build up events, he really could have turned this fight, had an opportunity to perhaps make it a pay-per-view fight. Had he marinated this fight much better, much properly, kept these guys a little more active, and put them in more decent fights. I hated the Berto fight, but I understood it when that fight was proposed, because I knew it was a safe fight. Berto, he sucks. He's trash to me. A lot of people thinks he's still got some left. He's done. He ain't got shit left. He's just gonna be an opponent for one of Al Heyman's star clients. And it's a lot better compared to what Danny Garcia is fighting now, but it really doesn't make a difference. That Berto was a safe fight, and Samuel Vargas is a safe fight. To me, it translates to a guaranteed victory for Danny Garcia. But I would have accepted it. I would have tuned in. But luckily, this card has a decent undercard. I'm interested to see Jarrett Hurd fight on the co-feature. I think he's pretty much the guy nobody's talking about in Al Heyman's stable. Honestly, I think he's probably the best, most talented junior middleweight out there. And he's been getting the type of fights that are good learning fights, good development fights. Heyman's doing a pretty good job with Jarrett Hurd. From fighting Franco Garza to fighting Oscar Molina. Now he's going to fight this George Cota guy who's got a decent record coming off an okay win against Udo Johnson. So that's a step in the right direction. I think Jarrett Hurd could be something special. He's got the talent and skill set to really be a hell of a prize fighter. Also, they got Javier Fortuna on the card. He's another exciting fighter that I'm going to tune in regardless. Yeah, he's fought some cannon fodder opposition, coming off an L to Jason Sosa unexpectedly. But he's a guy I'm always going to tune in to watch fight because he's exciting to watch. So luckily for Garcia, he's got a solid co-feature in a guaranteed win against Samuel Vargas. That will be a setup for Keith Thurman for a bout in March, which is pretty much signed. It's agreed to. That's what has been reported. But Heyman really missed an opportunity to really make this fight a lot bigger. I mean, what was his intentions? Just to put this fight on free TV, CBS? Is it going to be on Showtime? I mean, who knows? I mean, he probably could have, if he really tried, made this fight into a pay-per-view. I mean, I don't know what type of numbers it would do, but if Postal Crawford can do 50K, maybe Garcia Thurman could do 100K. But without the momentum, without being active, and a proper marination, it's probably not worth to try to put it on pay-per-view. And that's the thing, man. Heyman, another lost opportunity into making this fight a lot bigger than it could be. But, Danny Garcia, he's one of the most hated on fighters in boxing. And outside of Adrian Broner, he's pretty much the most popular fighter in Al Heyman's stable. He's got the biggest following outside of Adrian Broner. He does decent turnouts for his fights. He sold a decent amount of tickets for his fights. He's got a little following. It's just that, he's not fighting enough, and he's not fighting the right opponents, and all the momentum is gone. And him ducking Manny Pacquiao for me was the last straw. But I'm not gonna count him out against a fight against Keith Thurman. Definitely not. That fight is a lot closer than people think. I mean, if it's not for that Porter win for Thurman, Thurman's career has been laughable. You look at his resume. Nothing compared to Danny Swift. Danny Swift has more experience, has fought better opposition, more former world champions, and has got better quality wins. But it's a close fight. I mean, I still favor Thurman because he's bigger. He's got the style that could really trouble Garcia because Thurman's a little more athletic, and his movement could be a problem. But I think Swift is a lot more skilled. I think he's technically better. I think he's a better boxer. I think he's a better counterpuncher. Thurman's a good counterpuncher as well, but Garcia is even better. I think he has a better jab. I think he sets up his shot better. And Thurman, he's got no jab and throws maybe 1 or 2 shots at a time, mostly haymakers. He's got power, but overall, I think Garcia is the more skillful fighter. But he has problem with movers. He needs guys to come at him because he's a counterpuncher. He's not a guy that likes to create offense. But it's truly a 50-50 fight in my eyes, Garcia and Thurman. I'm not going to count Garcia out in any fight. Even if he fights Spence, I'm not going to count him out because just based on experience or resumes, how can you count him out when Garcia's fought the better quality opposition? Yes, Spence looks the part, but against the guys that he's been feasting on. Swift is not going to be easy out for none of those Heyman guys. Very underrated, and while he's getting shitted on, he's a pretty damn good fighter. Just wish he was much better managed, as has been disastrous ever since he left Golden Boy. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.